While most of us were getting ready for our Friday night Netflix binges, our monarch was busy channeling his inner Churchill and delivering what might just be the most powerful 6-minute royal address since his grandfather literally helped win a world war. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just any old royal speech. Welcome back to Royal Cookies, where we serve up the juiciest royal gossip with a side of heart-wrenching humanity. Please remember to subscribe and click on the notifications bell icon, so you will be notified whenever we upload new cookies about the British royal family. This was Charles going full emotional heavyweight champion, and trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why even his harshest critics are tiptoeing around this one. So yesterday, August 15th, marked the 80th anniversary of VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day, basically the day World War II officially ended. Now, most royal watchers were expecting the usual. You know, a nice little statement, maybe a wreath laying, some polite handshaking with veterans. Standard royal protocol, nothing too earth-shattering. Our king decided to record a full 6-minute address to the nation from the morning room at Clarence House. And here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just any room. This was a deliberate choice, because the speech deliberately echoed and referenced the historic audio broadcast made by Charles's grandfather, King George VI. Think of it like this. Imagine if you decided to give a speech about climate change from the exact same spot where Churchill delivered his wartime broadcasts. That's the level of symbolic power play we're talking about here. But the really clever bit? Charles hailed the courage and camaraderie of heroes who fought in the Pacific and Far East. But he didn't stop there. Oh no. This is where our king showed he's been paying attention to his media training. This is where Charles proved he's not just playing dress-up in Granddad's old job. He said the conflict remained a reminder that war's true cost extends beyond battlefields, touching every aspect of life, a tragedy all too vividly demonstrated by conflicts around the world today. Hold up, did the King of England just make a subtle dig at current world conflicts? Oh yes, he absolutely did. This is like watching your usually mild-mannered headmaster suddenly drop bars in the school assembly. Charles basically took a 80-year-old historical event and made it feel more relevant than this morning's headlines. But wait, it gets better. He specifically honored the sacrifices of the forgotten army in Southeast Asia and the suffering of prisoners of war and civilians. Now, for those not up on their World War II history, the Forgotten Army were the British and Commonwealth forces who fought in Burma and other parts of Southeast Asia. Literally the troops who got the least recognition after the war ended. It's like Charles looked at his speechwriters and said, you know what? Let's not just honor the obvious heroes. Let's shine a light on the ones history tried to erase. That's not just good kingship. That's next-level emotional intelligence. And here's the bit that made even the cynics sit up and take notice. Charles described how the VJ Day heroes gave us more than freedom. They left us the example of how it can and must be protected. Excuse me, Your Majesty, but are you essentially telling the nation that freedom isn't a given? It's something we have to actively defend? Because that's some serious constitutional tea right there. Now this is where Charles showed he's been taking notes from the royal playbook's greatest hits. Remember how I mentioned he deliberately echoed his grandfather's historic broadcast? Well, this wasn't just nostalgic name-dropping. This was strategic genius. King George VI wartime broadcasts were legendary for keeping British morale up during the darkest days of World War II. The man had a stutter, was terrified of public speaking, but still managed to become the voice of a nation under siege. It's like if someone with stage fright decided to headline Glastonbury and absolutely smashed it. So when Charles chooses to mirror that legacy, he's not just honoring Granddad, he's positioning himself in the same category. And the timing? Asterisk chef's kiss asterisk perfect. At a moment when the world feels pretty chaotic, wars, political upheaval, economic uncertainty, Charles steps up with a message that's both historically grounded and utterly contemporary. He reflected on the horrors experienced by prisoners of war and the impact of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, connecting past trauma with present realities. This is emotional leadership 101. People. He's basically saying, look, humans have survived unimaginable horror before, learned from it, and built something better. Now, you'd think a speech honoring World War II veterans would be controversy-free, right? Well, one detail has actually sparked backlash. And honestly, the internet's ability to find drama in literally anything never ceases to amaze me. Some critics are questioning whether Charles should be making subtle political statements about current conflicts. Others are debating whether a 6-minute royal address is appropriate when there are pressing domestic issues to address. It's like watching people complain that the fire brigade spent too long putting out a house fire when they should have been trimming the hedges. But here's the thing, and this is why I think this speech is actually brilliant. Charles managed to thread an almost impossible needle. He honored the past without being stuck in it, addressed current issues without being partisan, and showed leadership without overstepping constitutional boundaries. Think about it. How do you give a speech about war and peace that doesn't accidentally offend half your audience? How do you honor military sacrifice without seeming militaristic? How do you talk about freedom without getting political? Charles basically solved the royal communication Rubik's Cube in 6 minutes flat. And the fact that the biggest criticism seems to be he was too thoughtful and the speech was too long. That's not criticism. That's basically a glowing review disguised as a complaint. Right? Cookies, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. Because this speech isn't just about VJ Day. It's about how Charles is defining his reign in real time. If you're obsessed with royal strategy and environmental impact like I am, make sure you're subscribed to Royal Cookies because we're serving up the most sustainable royal content on YouTube. And remember, in a world full of fast fashion and royal scandals, sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is wear your values on your sleeve, preferably in a gorgeous shade of green.